Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
January 22, 2008. A cold winter day in New York. Breaking news ripples across every major network.
The actor Heath Ledger was found dead today in an apartment here in New York City. He was just 28 years old. The Australian-born actor came to huge prominence after his powerful performance in the film Brokeback Mountain.
Heath Ledger, Academy Award-nominated actor, found dead in his Manhattan apartment. He was 28 years old. Outside his loft in Soho, stunned fans gather within hours, lighting candles, leaving flowers, handwritten letters. The silence of the crowd says more than words ever could. Around the world, people sit in front of their televisions in disbelief. At that very moment, across the country in Los Angeles, director Christopher Nolan was in the middle of post-production on The Dark Knight. Ledger had already completed his work as the Joker, a performance so unsettling, so magnetic, that even seasoned actors like Michael Caine admitted they were floored, even frightened, when Heath transformed on set.
Okay, let's talk superheroes, because judging by the teaser trailer for The Dark Knight, I think Alfred is the star. I mean, judging by the voiceover, it's all you there. When are people going to realize it's all about Alfred and not the
It really, I tell you who it's about. It's about Heath Ledger as the Joker. He will be wonderful. He will be the talking point of the next Joker, the next Batman.
Nolan would later recall that returning to the editing room after Ledger's death was almost unbearable. Each scene a painful reminder of the brilliance they had lost. That afternoon, Heath was discovered unconscious by his housekeeper and his massage therapist. Paramedics rushed to revive him, but it was too late. The official cause? An accidental overdose of prescription medications. A lethal mix of painkillers, sleeping pills, and anti-anxiety drugs. The shockwaves spread instantly. Fellow actors, filmmakers, musicians, everyone seemed to pause. Steven Spielberg, Daniel Day-Lewis, Cate Blanchett, even the Prime Minister of Australia expressed their grief. Hollywood had lost not just another young star, but someone who was redefining what acting could be. Ledger's death was not only a tragedy of a life cut short. It felt like the silencing of a rare voice, a once-in-a-generation artist who had only begun to show the world the depths of his talent. And so the question remains, how did a boy from Perth, Australia, a boy who grew up far from the glamour of Hollywood, rise to become one of the most extraordinary actors of his time, only to burn out at the very peak of his genius? This is the untold story of Heath Ledger. Heath Ledger didn't arrive into this world under Hollywood's spotlights. Born Heath Andrew Ledger on April 4, 1979, in Perth, Western Australia, a sun-blanched corner of red earth and open horizon. His mother, Sally Ramshaw, taught French. His father, Kim Ledger, was a racing car driver who later worked in mining engineering. The Ledger family were more than just locals. The Ledger Engineering Foundry was part of their heritage, and his great-grandfather, Sir Frank Ledger, later had a charitable trust founded in his name. Ledger attended Mary's Mount Primary School in Gooseberry Hill, then Guildford Grammar School, where at around 10 years old he played Peter Pan in a school production. His parents separated when he was 10, and by 11 they were divorced. His older sister Kate was a formative presence, inspiring him in performance, in stage work, in daring. At age 16, Heath left school early to pursue acting. With his best friend Trevor DiCarlo, he drove across Australia from Perth to Sydney, a leap with almost nothing but hope. In Sydney, he started taking small television roles in Australian dramas and soap operas. Home and Away, Roar, Sweat, each minor part teaching him something, each audition a stepping stone. He hated being boxed in, hated being just a pretty face. He wanted complexity. He wanted truth. From this blend of instability and ambition, of early loss and raw desire, Heath Ledger emerged. Not yet the star, but the actor who would turn his scars into artistry. The breakthrough, from Perth to Patrick Verona. At 16, Heath Ledger made a decision that would define him. He left school behind, packed a car with his best friend Trevor DiCarlo, and drove out of Perth, across the long empty roads of Western Australia. No money, no security, just a restlessness that told him life had to be more than what he saw in his hometown. His parents thought it was reckless. For Heath, it was inevitable. He wanted to act. Sydney was no promised land. It was a grind. Ledger hustled for bit parts, appearing in Australian TV shows. Sweat, where he played a gay cyclist.
On your marks. Set. Pow!
Gone! Next! Hello, Central Casting. Maybe there's more to this running thing than I thought.
Don't worry. You guys will be so far behind, I'll need a NASA tracking device to find you.
Not me. I'm gonna be right up there so close to Robin Barry she'll be panting.
Home and Away, the soap opera every young actor passed through, and Roar, a short-lived fantasy series where he was cast alongside a young Vera Farmiga.
Thank you very much.
What?
You drew me, didn't you?
What do you mean?
You flared all about it, didn't you, little slag?
I didn't even say anything about you.
You're only one sorry chick.
The roles were small, fleeting, but they were his apprenticeship. He studied the camera, learned how silence could be louder than words, how posture could tell a story. Every rejection, every audition that ended with "we'll call you" became part of his training ground. Then came the audition that changed everything. An American teen comedy, shooting in Seattle, loosely adapted from Shakespeare's The Taming of the Shrew. The film was called 10 Things I Hate About You. More than 200 actors tried out for the role of Patrick Verona, the mysterious rebel who wins the heart of Julia Stiles' character. Director Gil Junger remembered the moment Ledger walked into the room. "Before he even said a word, I thought, that's our guy," Junger recalled years later.
So the door opens and Heath walks in. He took 4 steps into the room. Literally 4 steps into the room. I hadn't said hi yet. He hadn't said hi yet. He's walking towards me. And I thought to myself, but this was the actual thought that I had when he entered the room. If this fucker can speak English, I'm going to cast him. I swear to God.
There was something magnetic in his presence, a mix of danger and vulnerability. He wasn't polished. He wasn't trying to charm anyone. He just was, and that was enough. On screen, Ledger transformed Patrick Verona into the rebel every teenager secretly wanted to be. Sharp, unpredictable, tough, yet romantic. And then came the scene that etched itself into pop culture. Running up the bleachers of a high school stadium, dodging security guards, singing "Can't Take My Eyes Off You" while a marching band blared behind him.
Oh, pretty baby, don't bring me down, I pray. Oh, pretty baby, now that I found you.
It was reckless, playful, and utterly unforgettable. In that moment, Heath Ledger wasn't just playing a part. He was showing the world what he could do. The film became a sleeper hit, beloved by audiences far beyond its teen demographic. For most of the cast, it was a career step. For Heath, it was a turning point. Hollywood saw a new heartthrob, but audiences saw something more. An actor who could balance humor with depth, mischief with tenderness. His charisma wasn't surface level. It hinted at intensity, at layers still to be revealed. And yet, as the spotlight grew brighter, Ledger felt unease. He feared the trap. He had no desire to be the next matinee idol, boxed in as a handsome teen crush. That terrified him more than failure. For Heath, acting had to be about truth, about pushing into dangerous territory. "I'm not interested in doing this just to be famous," he told interviewers at the time. "I want roles that scare me." Behind the smile, there was already a shadow. Ledger wasn't chasing stardom. He was running from it, searching for something rawer, more real. And that hunger would shape everything that came next. Hollywood calling. After 10 Things I Hate About You, Hollywood came knocking, and Heath Ledger suddenly found himself at a crossroads. Studios saw him as the perfect heartthrob, tall, handsome, charming. But Heath wanted more than poster boy fame. He was determined to prove he could carry weight, not just smiles. His first major test came with The Patriot, opposite Mel Gibson. On paper, it was a dream, a big-budget historical drama, a guaranteed blockbuster. But the experience was far from easy. Heath was playing Gabriel, the idealistic son of Gibson's character. On set, surrounded by seasoned veterans, he sometimes felt out of place, even overwhelmed.
I thought you were a man of principle. When you have a family of your own, perhaps you'll understand.
When I have a family of my own, I won't hide behind them.
Yet Gibson later said that Heath had a natural gravity, a quiet strength, and that he carried himself with surprising maturity for someone so young. Heath arrived on set of The Patriot under a heavy weight, working opposite Mel Gibson, someone he'd admired from afar. From the moment he stepped into costume, there was a trembling in his voice, a tautness in his posture. That evening, after the day's shoot, he seemed to drift away, bringing a friend with him, the two of them seeking some relief in smoke. Roland Emmerich later recalled, "He was so young, he was just still a kid." The producer Dean Devlin had to intervene, speaking quietly with Ledger. Mel Gibson stepped in, extending a calm but firm hand, guiding Heath through the fear. On the second day, something shifted. The tremble in his hands eased. He spoke his lines more clearly. He met Gibson's gaze. And for the first time, he didn't just play Gabriel Martin. He became him. The awkwardness was gone. Instead, there was quiet authority. That moment marked something crucial. Ledger wasn't only fighting for a role. He was fighting for his own faith. That he could belong here among titans, and not just be a young actor in a big movie. Then came the role that catapulted him into stardom, A Knight's Tale. Heath played William Thatcher, a peasant who pretends to be a nobleman to compete in jousting tournaments. The film was wild, mixing medieval adventure with rock music, humor, and romance. And at the center of it all was Ledger, bold, magnetic, impossible to ignore. Audiences around the world fell in love with him. Suddenly he was everywhere, on billboards, in magazines, called the next great leading man.
You're just a silly girl, aren't you?
Better a silly girl with a flower than a silly boy with a horse and a stick. Goodbye, then.
It's called a lance. Hello?
Hollywood wanted him in superhero franchises, in romantic comedies, in safe bets that guaranteed money. But Heath was restless. Fame felt like a trap. He feared becoming a prisoner of one role, one image. The heartthrob label wasn't what he had come all this way for. Deep inside, he was searching for something riskier, something that would challenge him to the core. Risk over safety. Hollywood was ready to turn Heath Ledger into its next golden boy. After A Knight's Tale, the studio lined up with offers. Superhero franchises, glossy romantic comedies, safe projects that promised money and fame. One of the biggest offers came from Sony, Spider-Man. His agent at CAA, Steve Alexander, handed him the script with excitement. For most actors, this was the dream, a role that could guarantee stardom for a decade. But Heath didn't hesitate. He closed the script and told Alexander, "It's not for me. I'd be taking someone else's dream away." It wasn't fear of failure. It wasn't arrogance. It was principle. Heath refused to step into a role that didn't feel authentic, even if it meant walking away from guaranteed success. For him, acting had to be dangerous, unpredictable, alive. That search for honesty led him to darker places. In Monsters Ball, Heath played a young prison guard, broken by the weight of his own failures. His screen time was short but unforgettable. The pain in his eyes, the quiet collapse of his body. It was raw, stripped of glamour, and it silenced anyone who thought he was just another teen idol. But risk came with failure too.
Well, I always loved you.
Ledger chose scripts that didn't always land, films that critics dismissed, stories that fizzled. Suddenly, Hollywood was whispering, maybe he was just a one-hit wonder, another pretty face who got lucky. Heath didn't care. Every stumble, every flop was proof that he was refusing the safe path. He hated comfort. He wanted roles that tore him apart and forced him to rebuild. Yet behind that boldness was a quieter struggle. The glare of fame, the constant judgment, the labels, they weighed on him. He was still searching for the role that would burn away the heartthrob image once and for all, and reveal the artist he knew he could become. Breaking the mold. As the pressure of Hollywood mounted, Heath Ledger began looking for refuge. He found it in unexpected places, behind the lens of a camera, and in a relationship that gave him stability for the first time in years. With actress Naomi Watts, Heath discovered a partner who understood the madness of fame. They were photographed walking hand in hand through New York, sharing quiet moments far from red carpets. Naomi later recalled that Heath carried a camera everywhere, obsessively framing shots, experimenting with light, chasing images that spoke to something deeper than words. Photography wasn't a hobby for him. It was a way to control the chaos, to freeze fleeting moments before they slipped away. But even love and art couldn't keep him from the restlessness inside. Heath was still searching for a role that would let him shed the remnants of the heartthrob label. That chance arrived with Brokeback Mountain. Directed by Ang Lee, the film told the forbidden love story of two cowboys in the American West. Many actors had turned it down, afraid of controversy. Heath didn't hesitate. He saw not scandal, but truth. He saw an opportunity to finally break free. As Innes Del Mar, Ledger delivered a performance that stunned audiences. His voice dropped into a quiet murmur. His body curled in on itself. His emotions locked deep inside. Yet every glance, every pause carried unbearable weight. Critics called it the role of a generation. Audiences wept. And for the first time, Heath wasn't just the promising young star. He was a serious actor, capable of changing the landscape of cinema.
Try this one, and I'll say it just once. Go ahead. Tell you what, we could have had a good life together. Fucking real good life. Had us a place of our own. But you didn't want it, Ennis. So what we got now is Brokeback Mountain.
The film earned him an Academy Award nomination and the Venice Film Festival's Best Actor Award. But more than accolades, Brokeback Mountain gave Heath what he'd been chasing all along. Proof that he could disappear into a character so completely that the world would forget Heath Ledger and only see the story. And in Michelle Williams, his co-star, he found something more personal, a love that would transform his life, and the birth of his daughter Matilda, the role that would mean more to him than any Oscar. The pinnacle and the pressure. With Brokeback Mountain, Heath Ledger had reached a new height. He was no longer the rising star or the teen idol. He was a force. Awards poured in. Critics hailed his performance as transformative, and Hollywood wanted him more than ever. Off-screen, life seemed equally golden. On set, Heath had fallen in love with his co-star Michelle Williams. Their chemistry carried off the screen, and soon they became one of Hollywood's most admired young couples. In 2005, they welcomed their daughter Matilda, the role Heath cherished above all others. Friends recall him as a devoted father, carrying his baby strapped to his chest on the streets of Brooklyn, whispering stories to her as if the world around them didn't exist. It was the kind of year most actors only dream of. Awards recognition, critical acclaim, a beautiful family. For a moment, Heath seemed unstoppable, but success came with weight. He had become a symbol, the fearless actor who chose art over comfort. The industry wanted more, and the world watched his every move. Heath, who had always been restless, began to feel trapped again. Interviews from this period reveal a man already weary of attention, uncomfortable with celebrity.
I haven't actually seen the final print, but I've seen many cuts before this, and I love it.
You got cut
I really
out.
love it.
Yeah,
Did I?
Yeah, you got cut out.
It's the Brother Grimm.
It's the Brother Grimm. It's called Grimm.
They told me not to say anything. I hope that didn't give it away.
No, I mean, he's got to
They're actually cutting me out of the interview, too. Yeah, that's all right.
Fame had given him everything he thought he wanted, but it also magnified his doubts, his fears, and the pressure he carried within. He tried to balance it all, splitting his time between the United States and Australia, chasing roles while trying to hold on to a fragile sense of normalcy. Yet the cracks were beginning to show. The relentless pursuit of truth in his craft, the demands of fame, and the intensity of fatherhood all pulled at him in different directions. This was the pinnacle of his career, but also the beginning of the struggle that would define his final years.
Thank you very much. That's all. That is cool, actually. That makes a cool sound.
When Christopher Nolan began planning The Dark Knight, one question overshadowed everything. Who would play the Joker? The character was iconic, immortalized by Jack Nicholson in 1989. Whoever stepped into the role would be compared, scrutinized, torn apart. When Nolan suggested Heath Ledger, the reaction was immediate, and mostly negative. To studio executives, Heath was still the pretty boy from teen films, the romantic rebel, the medieval knight with a charming grin. Casting him as one of cinema's darkest villains felt reckless. Fans echoed the doubt online, calling it a disaster waiting to happen. But Nolan saw something no one else did. He had met Ledger before during Batman Begins, when Heath politely turned down the chance to audition for Bruce Wayne. Nolan remembered his presence, his fearlessness, his refusal to play safe. To Nolan, that fearlessness was the essence of the Joker.
Kind of. I remember seeing Jack Nicholson and thinking that he looked like he was having so much fun playing that. And
Behind closed doors, arguments flared. Executives pushed for safer choices. Established stars, actors with darker resumes. Nolan refused. He told the studio plainly, "It has to be Heath. If it isn't him, then I don't see the point." Ledger, too, hesitated at first. He didn't want to be in a superhero film. But Nolan's vision convinced him. This Joker wasn't a cartoon villain, but an agent of chaos, a role that demanded reinvention. Once Heath committed, he threw himself into the abyss. He checked into a hotel room for weeks, filling journals with the Joker's twisted handwriting, cutting out magazine clippings, experimenting with voices and laughs until he found one that chilled him to the bone. By the time cameras rolled, the gamble had paid off. Nolan had staked his film on a choice everyone doubted, and Ledger delivered a Joker so terrifying, so alive, that even his co-stars admitted they were shaken on set.
You know, you remind me of my father. I hated my father.
I'm gonna make this pencil disappear.
It was the boldest risk of Nolan's career, and it gave cinema the most haunting villain of its generation. On screen, Heath Ledger's Joker was pure chaos. Unpredictable, terrifying, alive. But off-screen, the transformation came with a price. In interviews, Heath admitted he couldn't sleep. His mind raced at night, scenes replaying over and over. He told the New York Times, "Last week I probably slept an average of 2 hours a night. I couldn't stop my mind. My body was exhausted, but my mind was still going." To quiet the storm, he turned to prescription pills, sleeping tablets, anti-anxiety medication, anything that might bring him rest. Friends noticed the change. Michelle Williams, the mother of his daughter Matilda, worried about his restless nights, his growing reliance on medication. By then, Heath and Michelle had separated, and the pressure of fame collided with the loneliness of single fatherhood. He adored his daughter, but distance and depression made everything harder. Crew members from The Dark Knight later said that while Heath was professional and dedicated on set, there was a weight to him when the camera stopped rolling, a heaviness that didn't lift. Gary Oldman described him as full of energy and mischief on camera, but quieter, withdrawn in private moments. And yet, even in the chaos, Heath never lost sight of his craft. He poured every ounce of himself into the Joker, determined to create something unforgettable. But the price of that dedication was sleepless nights, a body pushed to exhaustion, and a dependence on medication that would become dangerously unstable. Ledger's brilliance lit up the screen, but behind the laughter and the madness, his own world was unraveling.
Could you please just give me a minute?
After The Dark Knight wrapped, Heath moved almost immediately into another film, The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, directed by Terry Gilliam. It was a surreal fantasy, a story of bargains with the devil and illusions that bent reality. In hindsight, the parallels felt haunting. On set, Heath was still electric. Castmates remembered him as playful, bursting with ideas, endlessly improvising. But when the lights dimmed, the insomnia followed him. He confided to friends that he couldn't turn his mind off, that sleep had become a stranger. He relied more heavily on prescription medication, sleeping pills, painkillers, anti-anxiety. The mix was dangerous, but it seemed the only way he could find peace at night. January in New York was bitterly cold. Heath was living in a Soho loft, separated from Michelle Williams, seeing his daughter Matilda only when work allowed. The weight of fame, exhaustion, and loneliness pressed harder than ever. On the afternoon of January 22, 2008, Heath's housekeeper and massage therapist found him unresponsive in bed. Paramedics rushed in, but there was nothing they could do. He was gone, 28 years old, at the peak of his craft, with a performance about to redefine cinema waiting in post-production. The autopsy revealed an accidental overdose, a lethal cocktail of painkillers, sleeping medication, and anti-anxiety drugs. The shock was immediate, global, devastating. Vigils formed outside his apartment. Actors, directors, and fans around the world mourned. Michelle Williams released a statement calling him the most loving father, saying Matilda would grow up with the memory of his spirit. And in Hollywood, as Christopher Nolan sat in the editing room finishing The Dark Knight, every frame of Heath as the Joker carried new weight. The laughter, the menace, the chaos. It was no longer just a performance. It was a farewell. Legacy and aftermath. When Heath Ledger died, he left behind more than unfinished films. He left a daughter, a body of work, and a question. What does it mean to live fast, burn bright, and leave something that outlasts you? Heath and Michelle Williams shared a love that was intense and raw. They met on Brokeback Mountain, welcomed their daughter Matilda, and built a small, fragile world together in Brooklyn. But the pressure, the insomnia, the fame, they were forces harder to hold than they ever expected. Michelle later said that Heath had become someone she couldn't rely on the way she wanted to, especially with a child in the picture. It wasn't easy to walk away, but by 2007, something had shifted. They separated. In his will, signed years before, Heath didn't name Michelle or Matilda, but after he died in 2008, his family made clear Matilda Rose would be taken care of. His estate, said his father, was now to be used with her in mind, giving weight to the man that Heath was, not just as an actor, but as a father. Posthumously, Heath Ledger received acclaim that confirmed what many believed he was becoming. His portrayal of the Joker won him an Academy Award, BAFTA, Golden Globe, and forever cemented his name in cinema history. But the legacy is more than known roles and awards. It's the unfinished ideas, his photography, his notes, his fearless choices, the risks he took, to play dark, to be unstable, to dive into madness. These are what made him unforgettable. He didn't just want to be seen, he wanted to be felt. Today, those who knew him, from Michelle to his co-stars, speak of him with reverence and ache. Matilda carries his eyes, his spirit, and the work he left behind, The Dark Knight, Parnassus, Brokeback Mountain, remains both a mirror and a warning. Genius demands sacrifice, and sometimes the cost is everything.